What is going on, everyone? Phil here, and welcome to KO Gaming. You know, it's been a pretty harrowing experience this week. For anyone who wanted to try out the open beta for Battlefield 1 on the PlayStation 4, it's just been problem after problem, whether it was DDoS attacks against EA servers, or the fact that the servers are kind of wonky and you end up sitting in a queue more longer than you actually get to play the game. It's been pretty annoying. But I lucked out earlier today, and I actually got to play a little bit over 90 minutes of gameplay in Battlefield 1, and I wanted to do a quick reactions video to let you know my first impressions on this upcoming FPS release. First of all, I absolutely think it's the right choice to take this first-person shooter series back to the past, to the original war games that we used to do before all this crazy modern technology and double-jumping, wall-running nonsense that we've seen in recent FPS games. I really like the classic feel of this game, being set in World War I. You don't have anything super advanced. The tanks are actually very boxy and slow and limited. The weapons aren't super complex. It makes it an easier game to jump into overall, and I absolutely like that. Just like previous installments in the series, Battlefield 1 offers different classes that you select before your character spawns that can completely change the way that you play the game. Assault is based more on running and gunning as well as using explosives to take out tanks and other vehicles. Medic is obviously there to heal your comrades as well as deal some damage. Support now lays down ammo packs so that people can restock if they're low on ammo. And Scout class is your typical sniper, which on this particular map that the beta is set, being a very wide-range sand desert style map, the sniping is incredibly viable and deadly. I like that because unlike other FPS games, you can immediately jump into the fray in a support role that you think can help your team the best, depending on what objective you're trying to take, or you could play the game according to your own play style. Maybe you really like driving and repairing vehicles or taking them out rather than focusing in on just killing the individual people out on the map, and you could do that with Battlefield 1. That's a pretty awesome thing. In this particular map of the beta, there are different vehicles such as different styles of tanks. There's also some planes that are flying around, jeeps that have turrets, so you can have a little bit of variety in the vehicle style gameplay, although it is kind of limited being that you're in the middle of a desert. You're not going to see anything like boats or anything like that, which could be a little bit disappointing since I know that that's probably going to be in the final version of the game. The destructibility of the environments is back, so you can use your tanks to try to blow down walls where people are camped inside of buildings, and it's pretty awesome to be able to go in buildings and open or close a door, open and close the shutters. Very realistic, and it really does feel like the most interactive and realistic style Battlefield experience that I've ever had up to this point, and that's a great thing. At least in this beta, the graphics are smooth for the most part, running at around 60 frames per second for most of the time, although I did notice during some critical firefights, the frame rate would actually drop, which it hinders your aim, and it actually is a little bit annoying that your frame rate would drop during the most critical part of the game when you need the highest frame rate in order to have accuracy, so I'm hoping that maybe that'll be glossed out in the final version of the game. I guess it remains to be seen. There's two game modes available in this beta. First is Rush, a 24-player mode, where one team is trying to rush a certain objective and take it over, while the other team is trying to defend it. It's a smaller scale version that only uses a certain portion of this particular multiplayer map. There's also Conquest. This is the mode synonymous with Battlefield. 64 players, two giant teams, multiple smaller squads that spawn at different parts of the map, tons of different objectives which the teams are going back and forth trying to take over. This is the mode that has the widest variety of vehicles, so it's pretty much a pretty open world experience, which is what you want from a game on this epic of a scale. Both modes were pretty fun and were pretty functional. Didn't really have any kind of complaints about the game modes or anything being broken. Of course, I didn't really get to play too much because of all the issues that they're having, but I can tell you that I can definitely see if these modes are translated into a full-fledged game with a ton of maps, and of course there's going to probably be other classic modes like Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, etc. This game could be a full-fledged success. Now, this is a beta, and of course they say it's not the finished game, so there's going to be issues. Don't expect those to be in the final version. One of the things that was just kind of silly and a little bit off-putting were some of the graphical glitches that I encountered, including some floating boxes that just did not belong there. And then also, when you're driving in a vehicle, sometimes the person who's riding shotgun will have no face. Man, is that a creepy image, looking over and seeing a transparent hole where someone's face should be. That really creeped me out. But for the most part, again, those are just kind of superficial complaints. You know, every once in a while you're looking through a sniper scope and you'll see something off in the distance that doesn't really exist because it's a floating glitched object, and I think that those will probably be polished out in time for launch. By far, the biggest complaint is the connectivity of the games. When I got into a game, the game worked perfectly fine, but I had such a hard time trying to connect to the servers and then trying to get into a server, sitting in a queue. I really hope that this DDoS attack nonsense, as well as whatever issues EA is having with these servers, gets resolved for launch, because the bottom line is, if people line up and spend $60 for this game and can't play it for 3-4 days, we're going to have another Street Fighter V situation here where people are going to be so upset that the game they bought cannot be played at launch, it's going to get a bad rep, and people just simply are going to blacklist the game and collectively think that it's a piece of crap. And that's unfortunate because, like I said, when I did play the game today, I absolutely loved it. The problem was it was too difficult to finally get into a match, and people aren't going to sit around waiting all day. So overall, my best way to describe my experience in the Battlefield 1 beta when it worked would be refreshing. It's awesome to go back to the old school kind of gameplay we used to do in first-person shooters before everything became modernized with ridiculous kill streaks and perks and wall running and double super jumping and drones flying in. Just having it be mano a mano, using basic weapons, using basic vehicles, makes it become immensely fun. And let's face it, now that we have the technology that we have and we can have the fully destructible environments hand in hand with the basic combat, I think this is a formula for success, as long as they can get these lingering issues with the graphics and the connectivity solved by launch. I think that Battlefield 1 is going to be a great game. So, hopefully you'll check it out. I'll definitely be getting it at launch, and we'll talk a little bit more about it then. Well, I hope you enjoyed my impressions on the Battlefield 1 beta, everyone, and if you did, please consider giving this video a like here on YouTube, as well as telling everyone about KO Gaming. Check the video description where you can find a link to the raw gameplay that I actually did get in of Battlefield 1 when it worked today, as well as some fun things like a discount code for Loot Crate, as well as my Patreon. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time right here on KO Gaming.